is A Storm of Swords, book one of the third book, and it's called Steel and Snow. And I'm sorry if the video is a little bit shaky. I had to use my iPhone, and it's not got the best location. So we'll have to make do with what we've got. Alright then. So just look through it. There's a little note on the order of the books and the story. This is for Phyllis, who made me put the dragons in. Dragons are awesome. I love them in the series, the TV series as well. But one of my favourite things are the maps. So we've got the north here. And that's because it sort of reminds me of when I used to read Tolkien, and you'd look at The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, and you can see exactly how the world was laid out, and even if the writing sort of made you feel the world was absolutely vast and you were lost, there was always a map that could show you where they were and what they were fighting in different areas. So what the lands of the summer seas is that one, and the Iron Island, and of course there's King's Landing, which everyone's fighting for. But yes, okay. So I'm not quite sure how much we'll get to read tonight, because it's getting a bit late. I've got to be up tomorrow. But I really felt like I wanted to do another one, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so prologue. The day was grey and bitter cold, and the dogs would not take the scent. The big black bitch had taken one sniff at the bear between bear tracks, backed off and skulked back to the pack with her tail between her legs. The dogs huddled together miserably on the river bank as the wind snapped at them. Chet felt it too, biting through his layers of black wool and boiled leather. It was too bloody cold for man or beast, but here they were. His mouth twisted, and he could almost feel the boils that covered his cheeks and neck growing red and angry. I should be safe back at the wall, tending the bloody ravens and making fires for old Master Ammon. That bastard Jon Snow who had taken that from him and his fat friend Sam Tarly. It was their fault he was here, freezing his bloody balls off with a pack of hounds deep in the haunted forest. 7 hells. He gave the leashes a hard yank to get the dog's attention. Track, you bastards. That's a bear print. You want some meat or no? Fine. But the hounds only huddled closer, whining. recess under the big man's squashed pug nose, where his snot had frozen. A huge hand in a thick fur glove clenched tight around the shaft of a spear. "Bugger that old bear too," said the sisterman. "A thin man with sharp features and nervous eyes. Mormont will be dead before daybreak, remember. Who cares what he likes?" Small Paul blinked his black little eyes. Maybe he had forgotten, Jack thought. He was stupid enough to forget most anything. Why do we have to kill the old bear? Why don't we just go off and let him be? "You think he'll let us be," said Lark. "He'll hunt us down. You want to be hunted, you great muttonhead." "No," said Small Paul. "I don't want that. I don't." "So you'll kill him," said Lark. "Yes," the huge man stamped the butt of his spear on the frozen riverbank. "I will. He shouldn't hunt us." The sisterman took his hands from his armpits and turned to Chet. "We need to kill all the officers, I say." Chet was sick of hearing it. "We've been over this. The old bear dies, and Blaine from the Shadowed Tower. Grubbs and Athen as well. They're ill luck for drawing the watch. Dwen and Bannon for their tracking, and Sir Biggie for the ravens. That's all. We kill them quick while they sleep. One scream, and we're worm food, every one of us." His boils were red with rage. "Just do your bit and see that your cousins do theirs. And Paul, try to remember it's third watch, not second." "Third watch," said the big man, through his hair and frozen snot. "Me and Softfoot. I can remember that, Chet. The moon will be black tonight, and they had jiggered the watches so as to have 8 of their own standing sentry, with 2 more guarding the horses. It wasn't going to get much riper than that. Besides, the wildlings could be upon them any day now." Chet meant to be well away from here before that happened. He meant to live. 300 sworn brothers of the Night's Watch had ridden north, 200 from Castle Black, and another 100 from the Shadow Tower. It was the biggest job ranging in living memory, near a third of the Watch's strength. They meant to find Ben Stark, Sir Waymore, Royce, and the other rangers who'd gone missing, and discover why the wildlings were leaving their villages. Well, they were no closer to Stark and Royce than when they'd left the wall, but they'd learned where all the wildlings had gone, up into the icy heights of the god-forsaken Frostbanks. They could squat up there till the end of time, and it wouldn't prick Chet's boils none. But no, they were coming down the Milkwater. Chet raised his eyes, and there it was. The river's stony banks were bearded by ice, its pale, milky waters flowing endlessly down out of the Frostbanks. And now Mansradar and his wildlings were flowing down the same way. Thorin Smallwood had returned in a lather 3 days past. While he was telling the old bear what his scouts had seen, his man Ketch, Whitney told the rest of them. "They're still well up the foothills, but they're coming," Ketch said, warming his hands over the fires. "Armour the Dog's Head has the van, the boxy bitch." Cody crept up on her camp and saw her playing by the fire. That fool, Tumbertron, sought in Withers, urging a retreat to the wall. But Smallwood wanted to convince him otherwise. This king beyond the wall will never look for us so far north, Sweet Donald reported him saying, and his great host of his and his shambling horde, full of useless mouths who won't know what end of a sword to hold. One blow will take all the fight out of them, and send them howling back to their hovels for another 50 years. 300 against 30,000. Chet called that rank madness, and what was madder still was that Sir Malinor had been persuaded, and the two of them together were on the point of persuading the old bear. If we wait too long, this chance may be lost, never to come again, Smallwood was saying to anyone who would listen. Against that, Sir Otton Withers said, "We are the shield that guards the realms of men. You do not throw away your shield for no good purpose." But to that Thorin Smallwood said, "In a sword fight, a man's surest defence is the swift stroke that slays his foe, not cringing behind a shield." Neither Smallwood nor Withers had the command, though. Lord Mormont did, and Mormont was waiting for his other scouts, for Jaemon Buckwell and the men who had climbed the giant's stair, and for Quarren Halfhand and Jon Snow, who had gone to probe the Scarlang's pass. Buckwell and the Half-Hand were late in returning, though. Dead, most like, Chet pictured Jon Snow lying blue and frozen on some bleak mountain top, with a wildling spear up his bastard's arse. The thought made him smile. I hope they killed his bloody wolf as well. There's no bear here, he decided abruptly. Just an old print, that's all. Back to the first. Fist. The dogs almost yanked him off his feet, as eager to get back as he was. Maybe they thought they were going to get fed. Chet had to laugh. He hadn't fed them for 3 days now, to turn them mean and hungry. Tonight, before slipping off into the dark, he turned them loose among the horses lined after Sweet Donald Hill, and Clubfoot Carl cut their tethers. They'll have snarling hounds and panicked horses all over the Fist, running through fires, jumping the ring wall and trampling down tents. With all this confusion, it might be hours before anyone noticed that 14 brothers were missing. Lark had wanted to bring in twice that number, but what could you expect from some stupid fish breath system? Whisper a word in the wrong ear, and before you know it, you'd be a short ahead. No, 14 was a good enough number, enough to do what was needed doing, but not so many that could keep the secret. Chet had recruited most of them himself. Small Ball was one of his, the strongest man on the wall, even if he was slower than a dead snail. He'd once broken a wildling's back with a hug. They had Dirk as well, named for his favourite weapon, and the little grey man the brothers called Softfoot, who'd raped 100 women in his youth, and liked to boast how none had never seen or heard him till he shoved it up inside them. The plan was Chet's. He was the clever one. He'd been steward to old Master Aemon for 4 good years, before that bastard Jon Snow had done him out of his job, could be handed to that fat pig of a friend. When he killed Sam Tarly tonight, he planned to whisper, "Give my love to Lord Snow," right in his ear before he slices a piggy's throat, open to let the blood come bubbling out through those layers of sweat. Chet knew the ravens, so he wouldn't have no trouble there, no more than he would with Tarly. One Master Sartin with us, an old done man and failing. He'll be running for the wall before sundown, and he won't waste no men sending them after us neither. The dogs pulled at him as they made their way through the trees. Jed could see the fist punching its way up through the green. The day was so dark that the old bear had the torches lit, a great circle of them burning all along the ring wall that crowned the top of the steep stony hill. 3 of them waded across a brook. The water was icy cold, and patches of ice were spreading across its surface. I'm going to make for the coast, Lark the sisterman confided. Me and my cousins will build us a boat, sail back home to the sisters. And at home they'll know you for deserters and lop off your fool heads, thought Chet. There was no leaving the night's watch once you said your words. Anywhere in the 7 kingdoms they'd take you and kill you. Ollo Lopand, now he was talking about sailing back to Tyrosh, where he claimed men didn't lose their heads or hands for a bit of honest thievery, nor get sent off to freeze her life away for being found in bed with some knight's wife. Chet had Wade going with him, but he didn't speak their wet curly tongue, and what could he do in Tyrosh? He had no trade to speak of. Growing up in Axmar, his father had spent his life grubbing in other men's fields and collecting leeches. He'd strip down bare but for a thick leather clout and go wading in the murky waters. When he climbed out, he'd be covered from nipple to ankle. Sometimes he made Chet help pull the leeches off. One had attached itself to his palm once, and he'd smashed it against a wall in repulsion. His father beat him bloody for that. The masters bought the leeches at 12 for a penny. Lark could go home if he liked, and the damned Tyrosh too, but not Chet. If he never saw Axmar again, it would be too bloody soon. He had liked the look of Craster's keep himself. Craster lived as high as a lord there, so why shouldn't he do the same? That would be a laugh. Chet, the leechman's son, a lord with a keep. His banner could be a dozen leeches on a field of pink. But why stop at lord? Maybe he should be king. Mansraider started out a crow. I could be a king same as him, and have me some wives. Craster was 19, not even counting the young ones, the daughters he hadn't gotten around to bedding yet. Half of them wives were as old and ugly as Craster, but that didn't matter. The old ones Chet would put to work cooking and cleaning for him, pulling carrots and slopping pigs, while the young ones warmed his bed and bore his children. Craster wouldn't object. Not one small bull gave him a hug. The only women Chet had ever known were the whores he'd bought in Molestown. When he'd been younger, the village girls took one look at his face, with its boils and its wet, and turned away sickened. The worst was that slattern Bessa. She'd spread her legs for every boy in Axmar, so he'd figured why not him too. He even spent a morning picking wildflowers when he heard she liked them, but she'd just laughed in his face and told him she'd crawl in a bed with his father's leeches before she'd crawl in one with him. She stopped laughing when he put his knife in her. That was sweet.